Ladies and gentlemen, here we are once again as usual with our wonderful program live on Kazo television. My name is Mucunguzi Jonan, and today in the studios I am not alone. I am with this wonderful gentleman whom I'm going to introduce to you. He's called Rukundo Clinton, a great author who is also part of Kazo television. He has been doing some programs. Those of you who have always watched, you have already seen him. Probably like one-on-one with Ndungu and some other programs as well. So today we are together in the studios and we will be taking you through this program. And so right now I will allow him to introduce himself, and then we will move on with the topic of the discussion. Mr. Clinton, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Like you've already told the audience, my name is Rukundo Clinton. I'm a journalist by profession. I currently work with Kazo Television and Smile FM. I've also written a book about the next succession battle in Uganda. The book is called Battle in the Paris, the inside story to Museveni succession. You can get this book via online or you contact me, I give it to you. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here and to be hosted by Global Leadership Empowerment.
When it comes to your book, The Battle in the Paris, is it about succession or transition?
You see, as a journalist, you have to bring out what is happening in the country. So it's upon the reader to know whether it's about transition or succession.
But probably to those who haven't read the book, what do you think we need the most? Do we need the president to be succeeded, or we simply need a general transition of the whole system?
That is upon the Ugandans to decide, because Uganda is a democratic country, we have elections, and it is upon Ugandans to go and choose whom the best candidate they can. But the most important part, where I would like to encourage the reader to buy this book, is there are very many things that take behind the scenes in most of the African countries, not only in Uganda. So I'm bringing out some of those things that some of the people, maybe because the media is biased, that have not yet brought out. So I've done research. So I'm bringing those inside stories where a few families, a few secret societies control the political arena in Africa.
Okay, remember you are watching live Kazo television. You can go to our YouTube channel and you subscribe to our YouTube account. Simply search for Kazo television, and then you subscribe. You also hit the notifications button so we can keep you updated with every program that we are always doing. And also you can go to Google Play Store and you download our Global Leadership Empowerment app. It is called the GLE Chat. As you all know that this program is brought to you by Global Leadership Empowerment. We thank you all, those of you who have been constantly following us, and those of you who support our programs, those of you who love us. And we pray that may the Lord God Almighty keep you alive, and may He bless you in everything that you are always doing. Now, like I always tell you, that we must agree that our generation lives in a swirling tide of events, dreams, promises, threats, and changing ideas about the present and the future. So the conditions of our world press the present generation to ask a new question. Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Why life and reality the way they are? So should we probably expect things to change? Should we expect the situation to remain the same? And if the situation is to change, who should take the initiative? So through this program, probably you will learn, like I told you, what you need to do, or you will end up discovering your potential as a leader, your leadership capabilities, and we will also teach and explain to you the process of how you can effectively become a wonderful and great leader. So what you must do is make sure that you don't always miss whatever we are always doing in this wonderful program. Today, we will focus on one aspect which we have always termed as Pan-Africanism, or what we call the spirit of Africanity. So when we talk about Pan-Africanism, Mr. Clinton, how would you explain it to our wonderful viewers?
course, Pan-Africanism, the definition or how one can choose to look it in different ways. But me, through my research, see, Pan-Africanism is an idea that African people have common interests and should be unified. For any society to develop, it must be unified. And we saw Pan-Africanism. This is an idea that began in the 18th century. It was brought about by the Africans that were living in America. The reason why they developed this spirit is because during that time, many of them were mistreated by their masters. Some of them were slaves on plantations. So they said, no, these people brought us here. They even bought us from Africa. And the moment we don't unite and fight for our own rights, we shall ever be slaves. So we see very many blacks by then at that time. People like Derane, people like Hampson, they said, no, let's have a common ground. Let's stand for our own rights. So for any group to be united, there must be the idea that is moving that. So Africans that were living in America by then on the plantation said, no, let's put this together, let's fight for our own rights. That's when we see Pan-Africanism beginning. So it started developing through stages. Then by then Africans that were under colonization, people like Kwame Nkrumah moved on with the struggle. People like Patrice Lumumba, people like Thomas Sankara, they said, no, we are putting this colonization to an end. Let's mobilize our people, let's talk to the people, let's fight the evil that colonization has brought us. So it has been growing gradually since the days that it evolved in America. Then African leaders later took it up and fought for our own independence, people like Milton Obote, up to now. Though one would say the spirit of Pan-Africanism has died out because now Africans are having very many challenges. And that shows that we are not united. We have lost the common ground. So we need to revive this spirit now. See, if we don't, then we shall have the second colonization. Of course, we are already under colonization if people don't understand. If you see for any project in Uganda now, or any big companies, many of them are owned by Chinese, by people from the UK, people from America, and most of these companies have interests of their countries and where they come from, their families. So they come here because Africans, we have been disgranted. We are not united. We are not putting up the resources together that we have. We are having what they call second-hand independence. We see people like Milton Obote, I'll give you this example of Uganda, wanted to see a better Africa, a better Uganda. That's why they sacrificed, risked it all. Actually, Milton Obote suffered so much for this. He was expelled from different schools, even at Makerere, though he later claimed that he was not suspended. So he did what he could to see a better Africa. Even President Museveni is one of also the great Pan-Africans that we have, though many people tend to because
there is a question mark on that probably because not all people agree when it comes to that factor. But what you are talking about probably is what we term as dignified corporate slavery. We are being made slaves, but indirectly, in a way that one cannot understand. Now, when you talk about unity, do you think, according to how you see all of these African leaders, all of these African presidents, is there willingness in them to unite, seeing how they are treated like kings, the way they move in convoys, the way they are protected, their armies and all that? Are they willing to sacrifice that for the common unity of Africa and Africans?
First of all, I think I have explained that in my book. You see, some of the presidents are in power or are holding these offices not because they were chosen by the common 1 inch. Some of these, there are secret societies that are sponsoring these leaders. And these secret societies demand accountability from these leaders. So, many of them, even look at our local elections, member of parliament. Someone comes up, sponsors a candidate, that candidate goes into parliament, and you expect them to serve the interest of the common one inch. They will serve that person that has brought them in power. So I'm coming to that. We are seeing most of our leaders, when they are coming into these offices, most of them are sponsored probably by the CIA, probably by the UK. So for them, they don't care when they go into these offices. They have to serve their masters. So until we young people come up and say, we are going to elect our leaders, we are going to protect our votes. For any leader that we vote, or any leader that gets into office, has been chosen by the people. That's when those leaders that we elect will serve interest of our people. But now, Africa is messed up. We actually need a revolution. And this revolution must be led by young people.
Now, one would want to ask you, when we say that we protect our votes when it comes to elections and all that, we have had incidents, or we also see it even today, that there are people who came into power some good years ago when we were young, or even before we were born, and up to now they are still claiming to be having a lot of potential to take over those positions, and they don't want to leave power in short. So how would you say that a young person who does not have money, who does not have influence, though you might be having ideas and all that, but without any opportunity, how would they get into...
Let me tell you something. Let me give you this specific example. Our current president, though I'll bring it as an example, the problem is many young people don't want to read our own history and see how possible it is to change their own environment they are living in. When you look at people like Thomas Sankara, people like Muammar Gaddafi, most of these people did not come from a good background, very poor. Most of them did not even get formal education like most of our own young people are getting. But they beat against all the odds and managed to change the societies that they live in. So there is nothing that is impossible.
But what you should not forget is that apparently we are being intimidated too much, that you, even when you want to stand up for something, the fear that they have instilled in us is so much that you are threatened to be killed. So the threats end up making us to...
For any revolution to happen, there must be sacrifices. Young people must be ready to sacrifice.
For example, is there willingness in you to die for the rest so we can see you as a hero, then we rise on that?
I've already risked, I've already done my part, and probably I'm doing it even right now. The book I have written, the research I used, the methods I used, the little resources I used to produce that amazing book that is going to be one of the best-selling books in the country, shows that I'm ready to sacrifice whatever I can. If that sacrifice, if that revolution can benefit our own people and the communities that we live in, because at the end of the day, you see, many young people always want to see a change, but they are not sure which change do they want. Because probably let me give you this example. Mr. Museveni may go. He's going to go. That is a law of nature. But what will happen? You can jump from a fountain directly to the fire.
But the question is, we are here now talking about a revolution. 40 years ago, those who were there, the young people, sat down, and because of that Pan-Africanism spirit, they made a revolution in this country. They believed they were fighting for a cause. Now, after some good years, all those who participated in the fighting are claiming that what they fought for is not what is being done. So how sure can we be that even if we fight today, the people whom we are fighting with will keep the interest that we are fighting for?
Of course, now we just need people that have integrity. You know, power corrupts. Many of the people go into offices and then they forget what took them there. That's why we are saying we are reviving the spirit of Pan-Africanism. We are advocating for that every day. We are advocating for spirit of Pan-Africanism so that when a person is trained, I remember some time back, global leadership used to have those seminars. We are actually still having them. We are training many young people out there. Must be willing to sacrifice what they have. There are avenues at global leadership. Free training. Free mentorship from people that have values and integrity. So, and the moment young people don't come up and embrace this, then it is us that are going to suffer in the few years to come. Because when you look at the population of Uganda, over 75% of it are young people. And the moment young people don't come for these trainings and be mentored from people that have experience, then I can authoritatively predict at where we are going. It is not for the weak.
Now, you have mentioned something that, power corrupts. Now, some people out there would want to ask you that we have had people like Nelson Mandela who have been in power and it hasn't corrupted them. So, which means that power does not corrupt. You are already defective as an individual, but then power gives you a chance to expose what you are on the inside. Because we would want to understand why is it that some people get into power, they remain pure, and others end up being corrupt.
You see, many Ugandans, actually, like I've already told you in this show, many Ugandans think of staying in power is the problem. In our own culture, in our own traditional settings, we had leaders that we didn't have elections. So it does not matter how many years you stay in power, but are people getting services? You see, whites have made us believe that even after 5 years, one must be removed or changed. But in their own societies, you look at the King of England, unquestionable. King of France, unquestionable. King of Spain, unquestionable. They rule what they want. This is what Mugabe was saying. As long as you stay in power, or as long as you have that office, but you are doing something that benefits the society. Actually, many Ugandans don't know what change is about. When I'm here advocating for change, I don't mean removing that person and maybe directly replacing with that person, but let that person work for his people. Let other people from also other families come and occupy those positions, not just one family occupying this office, occupying this ministry and the other ministry.
Now,
so staying in power is not a program, but what have you done for your people? That's what we should change that mindset. Because in our own cultural settings, leaders would stay in positions, but they would serve the interest of the people. People like Shaka Zulu. That's why I'm covering this Pan-African series. And I'm never going to give up, no matter the intimidations that I'm getting already from maybe outside people, white supremacists, people that are anti-Pan-Africanism.
Now, we do understand that everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, whenever there is a problem in the society, there must be two things involved. Either the problem must be the leaders, or the problem must be the leadership system. You can find that the leaders are good, but the system limits them. The system is bad. Or you can find that the system is good, but the leaders are bad. Now, when you study the system, the Uganda's regime, should we say that the system is bad and the leaders are good? Is the system good and the leaders are bad, or the system is bad and the leaders are bad as well?
The system is bad, and those who brought the system are also bad. So probably we need a revolution. The system is bad, and those who brought it are bad also. I have said this and I will continue saying it. Young people must come up and hold these leaders accountable. You know, for example, if a member of parliament, there's a provision in the constitution of Uganda that if a member of parliament is what? Is not working for his people, or is not bringing the service deliveries, or is not doing the 4 roles of a member of parliament, that is registration, representation. A member, a concerned citizen, has a right to complain. Or has a right to write to the Speaker of Parliament and say, no, our leader has not done anything. But how many of our people can do that? How many of our young people can do that? So when there is a program, they run social media. They run to probably the Americans, people in the UK, saying, hey, but they are not doing what they are supposed to do.
But then when it comes to the system, like we have said that the system is bad, we understand that all African countries inherited the democratic structure that the whites imposed on us.
Yeah,
so should we say that this system of democracy is ineffective, and should we now set up another system of government? What should be done probably?
You see, someone cannot impose on you a system that does not benefit him. So, the leadership system that we have is not our own. And therefore, people who are in it don't know exactly what they are doing. They're just there because they are there. So, as Africa, we need to sit down. That is 54 countries. We need to sit down and say, we need to develop our own African political system or leadership system. We had them before. But when when colonization came, everything was destroyed. They brought a system that favors their own. Not only in leadership, look at our education system. Someone spends. I was looking at some research. They are saying for a student to start primary, secondary and finish university, one must have used over averagely 100 million. But you know what that 100 million can do? Because you've given money to institutions and all that, someone graduates and they have no skills. And then what happens is people are on the street now. So we need to have our own system, destroy this education system. A system that does not create jobs, it just creates what? Job seekers.
So, for example, here in Uganda, having seen that there is all that chaos in the systems, after 40 years of the NRM regime, would you say that they are to blame, or how would you comment about that? Should they take the blame? Should we blame the whites? Because if after 40 years you haven't produced a system that works, so should we continue blaming the whites, or we blame the government?
First of all, is there the environment that allows this in leadership or in political offices to change the system?
So is the problem the leaders themselves, or those who are outside, the outside
we still
forces?
have a lot of interferences from the outside world.
So how shall
At the moment, let me tell you, number one enemy for Africans has always been what? The white man. So the moment we Africans don't sit and say, no, we are becoming independent. Someone was saying, we were arguing, someone was saying that we have independence, what? But you know, for any project to take place in Uganda, our leaders are forced to take loans from MIF,
from the World Bank,
from the BRICS. You know why they do that? Because they know when they go there, at the end of the day, they will get millions of dollars and use thousands in these projects. So I think we need to sit down as Africans and say, because we have the potential, we have the capacity, we have resources, we have whatever it takes. But the moment we don't sit together as a family and say, no, our enemy is this, let's develop our own traditional systems. Let's engage, bring the stakeholders on board and sit and organize ourselves internally. Then we shall continue going to the West.
Now, one of the problems is that the people you say that they should meet, they don't see that necessity. They are not interested in short. So now they are the people in power, and they are not interested to sit and discuss with anyone. So we who are down here, we keep saying
the structure that we have that was imposed on us as Africans by the whites makes one have personal interest forever. I was watching a certain there was a dialogue that was involving opposition political parties in Uganda of recent, which was happening at Munyonyo. But some of the opposition political parties boycotted the what? The meeting. So even if we still have that personal interest forever, there would be no dialogue, there would be nothing. We need harmony in Africa. Not only in Uganda, also in Africa. Because when you look at Africa, we're having this all over. When you look at Sudan, we're having those disagreements. When you look at Libya, we're having those disagreements all over. We're having those disputes when you go in Chad, when you go in Mali. And most of them, if you are to focus specifically at those specific examples, you see there's always the element of Western interference. So the moment we don't know our enemies, then we are bound to fail. The system will always be, because the system that we have does not serve the interest of our people, but the interest of those who imposed it on us. So I would encourage opposition political figures and those in parliament, you can sit. Put your ego down. Put your personal interest down and think about the one inch. Because for any leader, for one to be a leader, one must be able to give right and show a direction to those that are not in those positions. So let those people put their ego down, put their personal interests down, let them sit. I'm sure the our president is a good Pan-Africanist. If he's approached, they can sit and see.
I think these people know what should be done, yet they are not doing it, because I do not believe that they do not see where the problem is. Now that they see the source of the problem, and they have intentionally refused to work on it.
No,
so shouldn't we rise up forcefully?
They are masters. They are masters. Because there's some information which I wouldn't want to share, but some of these even political opposition figures that we have are agents of the Western, of people from Europe, from the Americans. So the moment they don't work on the conditions given to them by their masters, by these people in the UK, people in America, it means we shall never have harmony in Africa. And let me tell you something. The white man has never wished to see a better Africa. So the moment we don't sit down as a family and say, no, we need to unify, we need to put our political differences aside, and develop our country.
So should we?
That's what Pan-Africanism is about.
Should we sit down and talk, or we should rise up forcefully and we change the situation? Because the willingness to dialogue, to make a dialogue, is too little. So what we will end up doing is maybe we rise up.
In Africa, if there was a dispute in any African society, diplomacy would be given first priority, even up to now. So let's first try diplomacy. When diplomacy fails, then as young people, we shall advocate to remove all those leaders, whether they are in government or not, that are dancing on the tunes of Western world, to step aside, using any possible means. And some of us are now ready, because we have nothing to lose. For example, personally, what do I have to lose?
So you're willing to die?
He said, no. All I have is my phone, all I have is...
So you move with everything?
I'm ready to sacrifice and change the perspective and change the society because I have nothing. I have no family, and there are very many people, young people who are like me, but they are not willing to do something. So when diplomacy fails, because the problem is when you talk about leadership in Africa or in Uganda, people think directly about the president.
Because he's the head of the country.
Yeah, he's the head, but he also has these people that are in his wigs. Those ones,
see,
they are the challenge.
Usually, like if it was a school and students fail, you wouldn't blame the teachers and you ignore the head teacher. So the blame must begin with the topmost leader of that institution.
No, for everything to work, for any institution to work, the systems must be working hand in hand. You see, that's what I was telling from the beginning. When you have a president, the president is given so many powers, he can do anything, just because this is a system that was imposed on us. So we need to have our own system that works hand in hand, not just having someone on top and then our inch are just down.
So is the problem having a lot of powers or being unable to perform in that position that you have been given?
The challenge is the president may be having a lot of powers, but how is he executing them? And also our president, specifically Uganda, Mr. Museveni, you know what we are facing as young people? I know he's going to watch this. We know he knows. Good enough he has ever passed through what we are passing through. Those people that are besides you are not doing what the responsibilities that you give them. We are suffering because those people that have stood in our way.
Don't you think that him and his regime are out of the generation? Don't we need some young people who have a lot of visions, a lot of...
That's why I was advocating for a dialogue. All those things can be discussed in dialogue.
Because they say that when you are young, you can only talk about the future, but when you grow old, you simply refer to the past because you can no longer see 50 years from now. So that's why usually in most of President Museveni's speeches, you will hear him saying in 1986, in 1970, in 1960, 1990, what? Because you can no longer see what a vision of 20 years from today at the age of 90. So that's why sometimes we say that we need a young person who can see a vision of the future, not this. Age will respect the elderly, but I think at a certain point they should hand over to the young generation.
The problem is not just handing over. Even these elders, we need them for guidance. Probably they are past what we have passed through. So it is not. I know it might be a problem of generation, Mr. President having been out of the reality, out of touch with what is happening on ground. But he can be there. He can get in a position. He can be an elder, judge.
So do you think he's willing to take on your advice, like you were saying now?
Probably, if he's engaged. If he does not want to. He will not beat the odds of nature. Anytime he will go also, let him at least do something for the youth. The program in Uganda is not just, we don't just want a mere change. Or repressing Museveni and then you bring someone because he's young, because he's what. No, that's not what leadership is about. You can have someone. People are there that are in mid-ages. Yeah. People that have integrity, credibility. People like Mucunguzi are there. People like Mucunguzi are there. Kanobesi are there. Yeah, you can work in hand with them.
So now, focusing on the big idea of the unification of Africa, do you think it is necessary to unite all this continent and we also come up with the United States of Africa? Or?
The moment we don't unite, then we shall never develop. Because when we unite, it means we have one currency that removes all the trade barriers. We have free passport, visa, reducing costs, increasing trade. We have one common leadership structure. So I would advocate for that. And I hope one day our leaders take on this message and maybe say, no, we know our enemy. Let's work hand in hand with Africa. Let's put our... Because the program of the Federation, I will give you this specific example of the proposed East African Federation. You know, it is not likely to happen because everyone wants to be the president of that federation. So we need to put our personal interests down and unite as a continent, as a region. Because when we unite as the continent, it means we shall have a few barriers. In case we have challenges, we can work together as a family. We shall have our industries here. We shall get investors from Morocco come here, specifically maybe in Uganda. We exchange what we don't have, international trade with different states. So I think a united Africa would really develop Africa.
Yeah, now as we get closer to the conclusion, you were talking about this Western influence and what. So we saw what happened when the president of Uganda signed the anti-homosexuality bill. We saw countries warning Uganda, threatening even to withdraw the small things they have been giving us. So do you think, what would you comment about that?
I think my comment on that would be, the moment we give something more attention, the moment that thing becomes a concern. So it is very unfortunate that Africa, we are focusing at that. Let's just ignore.
You cannot ignore it because it is now a major issue. It is no longer
First of
possible to
all,
ignore it.
homosexuality, we didn't have it before in Africa.
No, it used to be there, but it wasn't too much.
That's what I'm saying, because you have given it so much attention and right and maybe so much concern, it is becoming an issue.
Yeah, now those who are
in our own traditional, in our own traditional setting, we didn't have homosexuality. So it is very unfortunate that we are giving it more right on top of other issues that Africa is in top of other challenges that Africa is going through now. Is having.
First of all, we must understand that those who are promoting it have their own agendas of destroying humanity. So now when they push this, it means that the family structure is destroyed.
Yeah, true.
So now this leads to the race population as they intend, and things like those. So meaning that it is an issue where we have to be concerned when these practices are being taught to our young children, probably through the social media, through what you have a child, they have phones in their bedrooms, and you think they are doing what you think they do when they are watching some strange things. So it is an issue that we cannot overlook, so we have to do something about it, probably.
Like I've been telling you, anything that is anti-Africa, I'm against it. So my stand on that is clear. Our president has done the right thing at the right time, banning it. And I hope those who are in charge of the law now should let the law take its action for the better of our own society.
Now, some African countries have already accepted it. We are talking about Pan-Africanism, African unity. Then you have countries that accept some of these things, others reject them. So we will be united on what grounds?
That's what I've mentioned before, that our leaders need to put personal interests before. They need to put their personal interests aside. Because when you look at some of those countries, maybe example is Ghana, some of these are doing it because they are expecting maybe loans and maybe some money from the Western world. But you can generate our own money if we are united. Let me tell you, some of these countries are doing it because the economy is forcing them to do. And we have our own capacity. to develop our own economies as Africa. Because you look at the country like the DRC. The DRC has resources. When you look at the country like Morocco, or those West African Arab countries, they have the technology. So if Africa was united, it means all these Europeans that we have in Congo would not be here. We would be having Moroccans coming in Congo and developing Congo. And that means, in the long run, it means Congo would not be dancing to the tunes of Washington or Moscow or anything. So the moment Africa does not unite, we shall always have those anti-African sentiments and elements. So I call all those people that are at the front line, our presidents, our ministers, the African Parliament, please, let's unite for the better of our communities and the better of our people.
Actually, recently we saw the president of Kenya boycotting using the American dollar in these trades between African countries. So do you think that that's important?
People are beginning to see the right, and many people should embrace that. So people are beginning to see the right because people have staged up. I've read this revolution. People like Pierre or Mumba have risked it all. And they are doing everything to see that Africa becomes a better place. So I'm very happy for the president of Kenya, William Ruto, is doing what is in line with Pan-Africanism. Yeah.
Finally, as we have got closer to the conclusion, what would be your concluding remarks? What would you want to say to someone who was viewing this program?
Africa has a lot of problems, and many of the problems are out of our own disunity and our own disorganization. That those who are against the enemy, who are against progress of Africa, have taken advantage of that. So Africa needs to get together as one family. Our leaders need to put their personal interests aside. Young people have to embrace it. That is the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Let everyone do his part. Let the journalists write the articles. Let the media do its part. Let those who are in political positions do their part. Now, people in the education sector, people should do anything that will see a better Africa. Because the moment we don't unite, we shall always be exploited. And we shall always lag behind as a continent.
Okay, thank you. That's it. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel as Kazo Television. Simply hit the notifications button and we'll always update you with everything that we are always doing. This program is brought to you by Global Leadership Empowerment. My name is Mucunguzi Jonan, and today I was with Rukundo Clinton. Bye-bye.